Video. So in this last part, we already started talking about intervals versus tests and the difference between whether you're making just a verdict or whether you're trying to estimate what's going on. The second piece to this is deciding basically if it's a proportion problem, a p problem, or a mu problem, and if you have one group or two. So that can be a little trickier, and depending on the wording of the problem, sometimes you could argue either way. And obviously, we're not here in person to have that discussion. But the wording on some of these is a little bit poor, and you'll see what I mean as we get going. So number one, we already decided it was an interval because we are making an estimate for this problem. We are estimating the average. That is a giveaway that this is a mu problem. It says average. And we want to know, the last thing we need is whether it's one group or two. If it's a two sample t-test or two sample t-interval or just a t-interval, there's only one group. You have 300 Americans. You're looking for their average. This is a single group. It is a mu problem, so I'm going to call this a t-interval. Done. That is number 8 on our list. I won't write the number for all of them, but if you wanted to see where that was, t-interval is the answer for that one. All right, number 2. How much better is natural sunlight compared to indoor lighting? We have 5,000 seeds planted outdoors and 4,000 that are inside, and we're going to look at how many will germinate. First of all, the easy part of this is deciding if it's one group or two. This is definitely a two group problem. You have outside seeds, you have inside seeds. The tricky thing on this, and the wording on some of these is a little bit poor, we want to look at if we're analyzing an average or a proportion. So how much better is natural sunlight compared to indoor? If I was going to look at like the average number of seeds to germinate under each group, I could make this a 2 sample t interval and be okay. But you also could look at these seedlings, especially because they're different group sizes, and you're looking to see how many will germinate. You could get the percent that germinate outside and the percent that germinate inside, and you can look at the percentages. I think that might actually be the best answer here. So I'm going to call this a 2 proportion. I'm going to turn these to percentages and do a 2 prop z interval. If you said 2 sample t interval and you looked at the average, that could be okay as well. That just comes down to the wording on the problem. Number 3, do cars average greater than 5 miles an hour over the speed limit? I am talking about an average right here. There is only one group, just cars. This is a 1 sample t-test, or just a t-test for short. One group, it is average, so it's t. Number 4 is another dicier problem here. How much more likely are college teens than non-college teens to drink alcohol? But the key is how much more likely. They are 10% more likely, 20% more likely. They don't make it easy on us and say the word percent, but that's what they're looking for right here. So I would argue this one. It's 2 groups, college teens, non-college teens. So it is going to be a 2 proportion is what we call the groups in a P problem. And again, if we're going to make it a P problem, it is a Z interval, Z for this problem here, because we're going to turn these to percentages. If you said, oh, I want the average, you probably could have made an argument for 2 sample T interval, but I think my answer is the best. Number 5, do men spend a higher percent? Thank you. They actually tell us it's a percentage on this problem right here. There are 2 groups, men and women. This is going to be for sure on this one very confidently a 2 prop Z tests. All right, number 6, are oysters that grow in conditions blah, blah, blah. You have natural oysters. You have I don't know, what other kind of farmed oysters right here. You could look at the average, but it's probably, again, looking for are the percent, like what percent have a pearl. So I would argue this is yet another 2 prop Z. You would turn these, this is just terrible handwriting here. That says 2 prop Z for this one. 2 more here. This next one is a little bit arguable. First of all, we're looking at hours per week. This makes sense to do an average on. So it is definitely going to be T for this one. But I would argue you could do a paired set for this because you're asking the same 200 people. If you do paired, it is actually just a t-test, same command, not a 2 sample. You can make this paired and just do a regular t-test. Last problem, don't have time to write it down. It is a 1 proportion z interval because we're looking at a percentage. There is just one group. So one group or 2, and p or mu are the things you have to look at in this video. At the bottom here, there's a few multiple choice questions that you guys should try on your homework just to get a little more practice.